Hey folks, how's it going? I put together this little thesis review because I've taken a look at a bunch of thesis statements over the last week, and I'm seeing a lot of strong ideas, but I want to make sure that everybody has a fundamental understanding of how to put this into the paper. So a few key points to start, and then I'll give you an example. Key points. First, I want people to understand that the thesis for this particular assignment is a multi-claimed thesis with logical transition language as opposed to a single claim with multiple reasons. And so generically, imagine a thesis that said something like, social media is really bad because A, because B, and because C. That's not a multi-claimed thesis. That's a single claim with multiple reasons, right? Those A's, B's, and C's. Now, contrast that to, in many cases, it seems that social media has negative impacts on those who use it too much, and yet we also have to understand that social media can be quite beneficial in many circumstances. That sort of framing is bringing in claims that aren't exactly the same, and it's putting a logical relationship between those claims. So that's the sort of thing that I'm looking for. Also, I want the thesis to be complex, and I want it to be respectful. And when I say respectful here, you got to be really careful presenting a variety of different ideas while still building the case that you want to build. I don't want to see this kind of dogmatic, one-sided position that's being taken. And now I also want to point out that the thesis isn't going to be a series of questions. In a lot of the blogs, I saw that people were giving me these questions that would then be answered in the essay. And as much as I understand that, and as much as that's definitely a way of getting into the paper, I want to make sure that everybody ultimately has a strong understanding of the overall logic of their paper. That is, the relationships between the various claims that you bring in. So to that end, I'm going to make sure that there is a thesis, there is a place. It can be at the beginning, where you have these claims in the logical transition language, or it could even come as the final paragraph. Right? I am going to see, however, that you've tried to wrap your head around taking this entire paper and basically summarizing it as a series of claims. So those are a couple of quick points, and now let's see those in action. Here is a thesis from a previous student project, and it reads like this. I've been noticing recently that the relationship around me seems shallow in contrast to the much richer and more substantial relationships I observed and experienced when I was younger. Even though technology has given people the ability to connect with those not physically present in more ways than ever before, this could be causing problems with our ability to interact face to face. Despite the thousands of friends we can have on social media, or the speed at which we can communicate with people across the world, the use of technology for the majority of social interactions inhibits our ability to have meaningful face-to-face relationships and contributes to feelings of isolation and loneliness. So, here we have a series of claims and we have logical transition language. I've highlighted the logical transition language, and I've also highlighted here some of those qualifying ideas that help make the ideas both complex and demonstrate a certain level of respect. If I take this thesis here, I can map out the whole paper. And so if I take this first section, I have been noticing recently that relationships around me seem shallow in contrast to the much richer and more substantial relationships. We can see that that's going to take up a significant piece of the paper. And of course, in this case, the person can use reasoning and evidence from personal experience. And I don't know if they're going to be able to do all of that in one paragraph, or maybe it's going to be 1 to 2 paragraphs. And so there's the first part of the thesis, and here's how it would be laid out in the paper. Similarly, as they move through the paper, they're going to be covering the complexity of each of the claims that they start to bring in. And so in this second example, they give this concession, even though technology has given people the ability to connect, and then they start to build their case. Here, this could be causing problems. And so I'm going to see support for this concession point, but I'm also going to see support for the angle that they're bringing in. And in this case, I imagine they can bring in some outside research. And again, I'm not sure if they're going to do it in just 1 paragraph or if it's going to take them 2 paragraphs. So to here, we see the same thing, that they're bringing in some concessionary idea, and then they're also building their case at the end. And so too, they can bring in outside research, and they may be able to do it in 1, or it may take 2 paragraphs. And so here is the layout of the entire paper, premised on the thesis that they've set up. And we can see that the thesis has a series of claims. We can see that the thesis is complex. We can see that the thesis is not just one-sided, and we can see that there's logical transitional language. So as you guys get into your papers, consider this and consider what you have and see if you can make the necessary adjustments, and then have fun as you start to draft. Hope this helps. Take care.